In this series, we're looking at why Christians believe Christianity to be true. And in our first part, we looked at why Christians, amongst many, believe that a God of some kind exists. In the second part, we're going to look at the Bible to ask some questions. You see, if this world is a reflection of the God who made it, well, the world has both good and bad in it. So logically, the Creator is going to be a mixture of the good and the bad. And this is, of course, what many of the Eastern religions and primitive tribal religions say. But Christianity very conveniently says, no, while evil clearly does exist, it didn't come from God and it didn't always exist. And God's not only powerful enough to one day end evil, He promises He will, just not yet. It's a big claim. And because it's in tension with our everyday experience of evil and suffering, the tension's so big, you could in fact say, God, I think you should come down here and explain this one to us personally, which is exactly what Christians believe has happened through history and through Jesus. And this makes the trustworthiness of the Bible really important, because it claims to be a record of the history through which God has revealed Himself to us, so we can know what He's like and why the world is like it is, and what our purpose here is. And over 2 billion people believe this explanation. So let's look at why.
For me, the Bible is a special book because it really shows the heart of God, and I think if I'm going to endeavour into a relationship with God, then I need to know more about who He is and the way that He's designed our life to be.
I feel like it's a reliable record of history because of some of the events that taken place in the Bible, the places were looked upon and stuff was found.
Like the Noah's Ark and how it's on exactly where they said in the Bible, and like there's no man-made way that the Ark could get on there.
The New Testament's written within, I think, a century or something of Christ's death and resurrection, but you have like Alexander the Great, I think it's like 500 years before you find any sources about him.
I believe it's inspired by God. Did God dictate it and write it? No, but He inspires the people. He gives breath to the people and brings it to life.
I feel like that people attack the Bible because the Gospels in particular talk about miracles, and miracles have this connotation that is against the nature, like the law of nature. So how could this be true?
I feel like it just holds all of God's wisdom and knowledge. Like that's how I want to be living my life. I want to be living my life for Christ, and I want to be living my life by the Bible. I think it's so important.
The Bible is an amazing and unique book. It was written over a 1,500-year time span by more than 40 authors, including kings, military leaders, fishermen and farmers, peasants and scholars. It's also been the most printed and sold book every year since the invention of the printing press. And for amusement, it's the world's most stolen book too. But it's also the world's most attacked book, because some who don't want to believe its message have felt compelled to pull it down. And this higher criticism, as it's been called, has taken place mostly in the last 200 years, usually with the support of Western public media, who'll give any person their minute of fame if they'll come up with a new way to criticize the Bible. Consider the lost Gospel of Judas, the lost tomb of Christ. Talk about the Gospel of Thomas, or the fictional book and movie The Da Vinci Code. The innuendo of all of these is the same. You can't trust the Bible. And then there's some best-selling atheist or non-God-believing authors who media have made famous, like Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens in our generation, or the well-known skeptic of the prior generation, Bishop John Spong. These guys have also said you can't trust that book. But what public media hasn't reported is what's been going on in wider academia in that same period of time, proving the very opposite point. And the caliber of the academic saying the opposite isn't lightweight. In fact, it's as good as it gets. Consider Dr. Glenson Archer, whose specific speciality was working out whether ancient documents could be trusted. This brainiac even learned over 30 languages, most of them from the early Middle Eastern world and Bible times. He taught graduate seminary-level biblical criticism for over 30 years, while I struggle to even say that. He's a genuine expert, and here's what he concluded about the Bible. He said that as he dealt with every supposed discrepancy and contradiction one after the other, his confidence in the Scriptures as a record of history they claim to be kept increasing. Because every problem ended up being resolved by the information already provided in the biblical text, or alternately by new information from archaeology. In other words, once properly investigated with prejudices put aside, the idea that these accounts are historic is quite clear. So let me now show you some of the evidence you've probably never heard. And because we need to keep this really brief, we'll focus on just the New Testament for our examples.